I want my kids, when they grow up in Baltimore, to say Baltimore is a place I choose to stay. Baltimore is like many cities in the fact that we have a lot of challenges that people are waking up every day trying to solve for.
20 people are believed to have fallen in the river.
Unfortunately, we have convinced enough people that the only way to solve problems in your community is to start a nonprofit. The corporate foundations think of their backyard first. Most of our large corporates have either sold to much bigger companies who are no longer their backyard.
Is moving its North American headquarters out of downtown Baltimore.
So we don't have as much philanthropic capital flowing, so I don't think we have more than other cities. I just don't think we have enough of the machine to sustain it. If you're sitting on the sidelines, believe and take a step. Whether it's writing a check, getting your hands dirty, or just simply pay more attention to the good things.
Welcome to Ace Rodney Talks for the Superstars. Tonight.
Hello, everybody. I'm Britt, and this is Mick, and we are the host of Love and Business Podcast.
And today's guest is Jay Nwachu, President and CEO of Innovation Works and Ignite Capital. Jay's committed to identifying seed capital and matching it with successful Baltimore entrepreneurs to ensure the success of Baltimore City into the future.
And if you like what we're doing and you appreciate what our guests are doing, like Jay, please do us a favor and subscribe. Take the 1 second to do it. It really makes a difference. Let's get into the episode.
Jay, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad to be here with you guys.
So, Jay, we always start off by letting our guests give us elevator pitch, background story. We'd love to tell our audience what you've been up to and how you got here, not just here today, but how you got into Innovation Works and a little bit about what you're doing. And then we're going to pull on all of the threads that we can and make sure our audience knows exactly who you are and hopefully share some great background stories, because I know you're doing some cool things in Baltimore City, which, obviously we're big fans of and really looking forward to talking to you today.
Got it. All right. I will try to give you maybe the chapter version of the elevator pitch.
We have time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, by chapter, like chapters, then you can dig in whichever chapter you want.
And also, don't forget Jay Nwachu, too. We're interested very much in that
absolutely.
part.
I'll do the chronological version. So Jay, born and raised in Nigeria, migrated here for 9th grade to Maryland, went to high school in Prince George's County. Found myself in Baltimore for undergrad a little over 20 years ago. Went to UMBC. And then University of Baltimore for grad school. My first career was in talent acquisition, helping corporations and some federal agencies and nonprofits find talent for their organizations. Eventually left that field to pursue supporting entrepreneurs full time. And that is how I find myself now at Innovation Works and Ignite Capital, where we are supporting social entrepreneurs that are both businesses and for-profits and nonprofits in the city of Baltimore. With the goal of growing our local economy by supporting these folks. A lot of work being done around supporting them with training, education, mentorship, technical assistance in some regards, connecting them to revenue sources for more sustainability long term. We have a neighborhoods angle where we are supporting local neighborhoods with economic development, thinking our main street corridors. And then we have Ignite Capital, which is our impact investing arm, where we're actually lending and investing capital into the entrepreneurs that we support. And that keeps us pretty busy most days doing all of those things. That's the short version of the book.
Wow. There's a lot there. It's a short, but not short.
Yeah.
Boy, a lot there. So one thing that came to me immediately. So tell us about how you identify or how do people that they have an idea or they have an entrepreneurial spirit, how do they find their way to you and your organization? And are you looking for them? Do you advertise in a way that would catch their attention and say, maybe this is the ignition point or the accelerant that I need to get going? How do you find each other? Maybe that's a better way to position it.
Yeah, there are two primary ways people get to us. The first one is we have one particular program that we promote every year as an open source application. We, in our network of how we support entrepreneurs, we can have that broken down in 5 different stages based on from ideation to scale, essentially. Our program that's in the middle for early stage businesses, we promote that for every year for a cohort. And we open applications, people come in the system that way. Other than that, everything else is just word of mouth. It's folks that are already in our network who are saying, hey, I'm finding value here. You may want to check them out. And we have an intake form and an intake process to get more folks into our system. Over the last 7-8 years, we now have roughly just about 200 businesses that we support in the city right now.
Wow.
And all that has been grown organically. Every year we go through an attrition process. we probably supported over 500-600 at this point, but 200 we wake up thinking about every day because they've chosen to stay in the system. And we think that organic growth is really meant a lot for us because those are based on relationships, right? People come in, if they find it too transactional and they don't feel like we're going to meet their needs long term, we exit each other. But the folks who find value about a long-term relationship with a network organization are the folks that we do the best with. And we do that through relationship building, and that takes time to build. So the 200 have been around. Some of them are still there from 7 years ago. And some of them just got here yesterday, and we're continuing to build with them. Yeah.
All right. So that was I skipped ahead just to a future chapter before we go back. So family moved here to the U.S.
Yeah.
You were in ninth grade.
Yep.
And give us the background. I mean, tell me what you remember of prior to coming to the U.S. and because we've had some guests that found their way to the U.S. in similar ways. In certain situations, the kids came, and then ultimately the parents joined. So give us a little bit of a background. Nigeria, moving to the U.S. Give our audience an idea how all of that evolved.
Yeah, wow. So my family is from the eastern part of Nigeria, so farming community. Grandparents were farmers. Prior generations were all farmers. That's what we had. That's what the assets around us were. My parents were the first of their lineage to really look for opportunity outside of that community. My father, the story goes, it is a very believable story because I've confirmed it, that community members really put together some resources to allow them to go to Ghana, actually, for technical trading school. So he went to go study accounting or bookkeeping at the time. This is a long time ago. And then he came back and then decided he wanted to pursue a career in accounting and found a job with some corporation that then eventually led to him working at the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria as a staff accountant. So that's how he got to the big city, Lagos, which is where we were born and grew up because he was working at the embassy in Lagos. My mother, on the other hand, was an entrepreneur. She launched a business, hair care salon, and that was a business she ran while trying to raise 5 children at the same time with my dad. Wow. I'm the oldest of 5. And that was really my life growing up. I like to imagine that in hindsight, looking at it, in a pretty low-income community in the main streets of Lagos, but if I were to compare myself to a lot of my friends, I would imagine we were probably more of the stable household, even in the community that we were in. There was some thing at the American Embassy that if you put in enough service years, you could apply for a green card, and they would advocate for you to get a green card. So when I got close to 9th grade, my parents decided the oldest of 5 is getting to this formative years of education, and we need to do something different because we don't know that the path here is going to get us to a place where we want our kids to be. And that's what inspired them to kind of pull on that lever and apply for a green card to get here. So that was the pathway here. Probably not without pain because all their life was there, right? Their friends, all that stuff. So it was a major sacrifice on their end to be able to do that. So my father and me and my younger brother, the first 2 boys, came first, spent a year, and then sent back for the last 3 and my mother, who then joined us a year later, which was, a weird transition to this country. I joke with folks, we arrived here 1995, so it'll be, however many the math, 35 years now this year, the day before Halloween.
30, like your 30th anniversary is right on, right?
Yeah, 30, right? Yeah. It's 30, right? So 30. The day before Halloween. Never having left the country before.
They're coming right up on your 30th anniversary.
Yeah, right up on it, yeah. Never having left the country before. Growing up in a mostly Nigerian community in Lagos, Nigeria. And then getting off the plane in America where it was cold. And then the next day, people were showing up at the door of my dad's mentor's house, who we stayed in for a year, in costumes.
And how old's your younger brother at this point?
He's 2 years younger than me. He's like 10 at this point, or whatever.
Wow.
And we're like, what the heck did we just
Did we go to Mars, Dad? You said we were going to the U.S.
That was our real welcome to America moment right there. It was cold, it was frigid, and there were costumes.
Yeah.
And then we enrolled in school. So I went to Laurel High School in Prince George's County. And yeah, that was a transition in itself. Weird being in ESOL class with all the other foreign students, but speaking impeccable English because I skipped the 6th grade because I was doing well in school back there. They put me back a grade actually in America. They didn't honor my skip because they thought I was too young to be going to 9th grade at the age of 12. which I think makes sense.
So touch on that. Like I mean, having come here as a freshman in high school, right? Your English is impeccable.
Yeah.
So what does your English curriculum look like in Nigeria? Is that where the basis starts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we were colonized by the British, so a lot of our education is dependent on the British system for English. So you go to school, it's primarily English, and then you go home, and then all the other languages pop in. So before we got here, I spoke 2 Nigerian languages fluently and English at the same time. So it made it a little bit easier to transition when there wasn't as much of a barrier. And like the accent is one thing, but the English was not necessarily an issue. Yeah.
And what did your dad do? So what obviously accounting, stay in that career path when he arrived here in the U.S.?
It took a while. It took about maybe 2-3 years of both of them doing a bunch of odd jobs, working in hotels, cleaning beds, dad working at a grocery store, because trying to re-enter yourself into the government system was not as easy, apparently. So it took him a couple of years for my father to regain his footing in the federal government. He just retired this year from USAID after all the 30 years now.
Yeah.
And my mom, the going into entrepreneurship was just not as available. It was like a new environment. So she did what a lot of Nigerian immigrants do, which was go study to be a CNA, certified nursing assistant. And she worked in nursing homes until she retired 2020.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a cool path.
So I imagine, it had to be a massive cultural shock
Yeah.
in every way.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part of that transition for you and your siblings and your whole family?
I would imagine something around values, right? We grew up in a pretty collective environment where if you didn't have, your neighbor had, right? Nobody had to call to visit your house. On Sundays, if you were home or not, people just show up and knock on your door and say, "Are you here?" Because there's no cell phones, right? Nobody has to call,
Right.
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
We were pretty open. Here, it felt a lot more guarded. Like everyone was on their own thing. Everybody was hustling in their own way. You had family, but you didn't really see them because everybody was working so hard. It was just something about some level of isolation in the immigrant community, where you were all there, but you weren't there because you were you all came for a purpose, right? I think my family felt some of that because we didn't come with other family members around us. So my parents spent a lot of time re-engaging community back home. Every morning, as I'm getting ready for school, they're already on the phone with people back home, just reconnecting. Meanwhile, we're trying to go to school to figure out how to build new friendships in a different environment, which I think if I were to really study that was probably difficult for the first couple of years in school.
Tell us about the rest of your siblings. So younger brother, because I always like to really understand, the birth order and the dynamics of the family too. So tell us about the rest of your siblings.
Yeah, so 4 boys, and the very last one is the girl, the baby. And my mom kept going until she had her girl, and she was not going to stop.
And she's well protected.
Yeah, exactly. My younger brother, he's an engineer for Amtrak. So he got a degree in systems engineering from University of Maryland Eastern Shore. He's in Prince George's County, married, his own kids. My third brother, he's in Atlanta. He works in education, special education, working with young kids in Atlanta public schools. He's married with his family down there. My fourth brother, he is the entrepreneurial heart of the family at the moment. He works at a car dealership and sells cars and is like a beast at selling cars, apparently. He also is in Prince George's County, married with his own children. And my sister, who is the last of us, recently married with a 1-year-old, works for a nonprofit that tries to encourage STEM in young girls.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's also in Prince George's County. So I'm in Baltimore, 1 in Atlanta, 3 in Prince George's County.
That's awesome.
Close to my parents.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what led you to want to do this kind of work? What inspired you?
There's weird story there. When I went to UMBC, this was just before 1999, Y2K. I don't know that I really had a career path in mind, to be honest with you, when we migrated. My parents had a bunch of ideas for me. I was supposed to be a reverend. I was supposed to be, I don't know, an engineer of some sorts or a doctor. I remember going to college, figuring out what I was going to study, and computers just made sense at the time because, well, it's all we talked about. So I actually went to UMBC and studied computer engineering and math. Did that for the first 3 years with a B average. got through all the physics and hardcore math and calculus and all that stuff, and just had a crash junior year. It was like, there's no way this is my life. I don't think this is the exact moment, but I tell myself the story about AND gates and OR gates in a lab and recognizing that this is not it. I was more of a people-centered person.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really probably wanted to do entrepreneurship, to be honest with you. That's just in my blood.
Mm-hmm.
But UMBC did not have a business degree. And I was not transferring to College Park 5 minutes down the street from my parents' house because they would kill me.
Good point. That's great.
So, I kind of had a moment that between junior and senior year, did a research program looking at psychology and business and the combination of the two. Fell in love with the field of industrial psychology. But that's what my master's degree's in. So I finished my last year and a half just cruising through the psychology program and getting a psych degree and then going to grad school after that. So my first career as a result was in talent acquisition because it was part of this industrial organizational psychology talent for systems and things like that. Enjoyed that for the first 10, 11 years of my life.
So talent acquisition, a headhunter of sorts, local, something like that, staffing agency, right? Technical side.
The first...
No shortage of those in this, in this spice.
Oddly enough, so my first, you guys might appreciate this, my first job, there was the only person that would give me an internship my senior year, was a gentleman in Ellicott City to go work for Aflac, the insurance company.
Oh, wow.
To help recruit agents.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which was thrilling for me.
Uh-huh.
Right? It was like, get out there and go talk people into selling insurance because nobody wakes up every day saying they want to go sell insurance.
Right.
That was a challenge.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I would say,
and with a duck.
Yeah, exactly.
we always talk about this, and I still believe this to this day. People in staffing tend to be the most persistent and relentless of all people that I've met.
Yeah. It takes a lot to convince people to go do something that it's not shiny out. It's not what we, go to school wanting to study, right? But I loved it because for me, it was an opportunity to help people see a world that they didn't envision and recognize that there's clearly opportunity in it. Did that for a couple of years, then finished my master's degree at the same time and wanted to go into more of a structured environment to put the degree to work because the sales structure was just like, although it was the Wild Wild West. I loved it, but I needed something a little bit more structured with the degree. So then I went to another nonprofit to help lead recruiting internal for them and retention work to attract people to Baltimore to serve young people in Baltimore. Did that for a couple of years, then pivoted back out because I wanted a blend of private sector again. It was too nonprofity at the moment.
Right.
So I went to an agency model that was supporting 200 of the Fortune 500 companies with talent strategies, more about bringing diverse talent to their workforces. Some federal government clients were in there as well. And that's where I spent the last 7 years before pivoting to entrepreneurship. And I loved that space, but eventually got weary and tiring, exhausting. I was starting a family. I was on the road 4 days a week. That was not healthy. And I needed to just slow down life a little bit. And then when we had our first son, that forced the issue because he was like, dude, you're raising a kid in Baltimore. You can't be gone 4 days a week. So focusing local entrepreneurship made sense at the moment to pivot. Back, rewind 2-3 years before that, my wife and I had co-founded an organization to support social entrepreneurs in Africa on our own time while I was trying to figure out how to wind down career number one.
Okay.
Her background is in international development. So we kind of did that on the side. And when our son was born, we were like, you can't keep doing this international thing. So we kind of figured I would switch my career to do it locally in Baltimore. And that's kind of how I pivoted.
So I know, because it was 9 years ago when I started my company, it's really scary to, bet on yourself, go all in. You risk that stability, especially with a child and a family.
Yep.
What gave you the confidence to be able to do that? And what did that initial start look like for you?
Yeah, the good news, I recognized quickly that me starting something that was going to be my only source of income was just not in the cards for me at the moment. Again, oldest of 5, still have families back home that were relying on me and my siblings for some things. And I just never had that ability to say I can just risk it all.
I think that's really important.
Oh, yeah.
Because all you hear is the stories of like, I risked it all. I had, and that's just not the reality for a lot of people that start businesses.
No,
so this is great.
Not at all. And after a lot of reflection, and one person who I love dearly now as a friend, Fagan Harris, who's now about to be exiting chief of staff to the governor. At that point, had just launched his own nonprofit. He started something. It was about 2 years old, and he convinced me to join his team. Right? It was a growing organization. I'm looking for something exciting, new. It was a great place for me to like go help build something that he already had a vision for that I really, really appreciated. So I went to go work for that organization first. And then while I was there, helped launch a couple of initiatives, including their entrepreneurship support initiative while I was there. And then eventually realized, okay, I really, really want to do this thing. And then that led me to Innovation Works. At the time, there was an idea that a founder was kind of shopping around Baltimore. And then I got hired to help launch that new thing that somebody else had already like put some thought into the formation, had raised some of the early capital, and then said, we need somebody to actually go launch it. So there's no clean, like Jay just got up one day and just did it.
Yep.
No, it's following somebody and then showing up as either number 2 or number 1, and then taking it from there. And that's been my path, essentially. I don't know, maybe the third chapter of my life would be me just going like scratch and doing something. We'll see.
What would that look like, though? Because it sounds like you built such a great base. I mean, going scratch, which would almost infer a departure from this versus an evolution of this, where you already have a great basis and you have the resources, the relationships. I think probably more important than the resources. Why would it be a scratch versus a future or further evolution with this as the launch pad?
Yeah.
And continuing on this trajectory of sorts.
Yeah. Whatever it is, my sister asked me this question when I turned 40. Couple years ago. She was like,
oh God, that's a tough day, right?
Yeah, she was like, wait, you're 40, you're 2 careers in, you have 2 kids, you have a wife, you're generally happy. What the heck are you going to do next with your life?
Yeah.
Like,
This sounds like a sabotage moment for us.
Like,
we would sabotage the hell out of that, Jay.
And I was like, I don't know. What I know is I've abandoned some of the early stories I told myself that your career had to be scripted. I'm living in a moment right now. So I don't know what it's next. I don't know if it's going to be an evolution. I keep joking. Maybe I'll just move back to Nigeria and go milk cows for 2 years and just take a break and have no direct reports and have no P&L.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll go join one of the founders that we support and join their team.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Those are called individual contributors.
Exactly.
That sounds attractive certain days, yeah?
Exactly. So I don't know, but it will be, I don't know what the cards will hold, but I'm having fun what I'm doing now. And the problem with me is that with too much exposure to information and systems and knowledge about all the ways industries work, I could go in almost any direction, which is a curse in itself because there's no discipline in finding the one thing that you want to pour yourself into. Going from recruitment with a bunch of agencies in mind and now supporting a bunch of entrepreneurs, I've just found a good space about helping to lift up other people's vision.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. What occurred to me as you were saying that, that dabble mentality, right? There is also something, I just coined this here, death by dabble. Like where you're like, you're spread so thin, right? You become this cross-training shoe where you're actually not good at anything. You're spread thin. And I think that can be a challenge as someone that,
generalist.
Generalist, or, we'll spin up a company along the way or, certain things. And I think that death by dabble could be something you just have to be careful of because you're so interested in so many different things and you're like, oh, that's cool. I mean, be chasing shiny objects indefinitely, which is something that I could certainly be guilty of. I have a question. So we are on the boards of nonprofits and support in any number of ways, whether it's Salvation Army, Junior Achievement. One thing I have noticed in Baltimore, there's a lot of nonprofits. And maybe that's every city. And I can only speak to this one, having been on a number of different boards. It seems that there are so many at times that there is this dilution. And by that, I mean, there's only so many dollars you can vie for, right? Whether they're philanthropic dollars. You said that, a local founder had an idea. They were shopping someone to engage and materialize their vision. That my comment about so many nonprofits, how does that work? And what do you think about the collaborative spirit between them? Because one of the things that we struggled with along the way is, you can only cut things up so much or
Mhm.
fragment it so much where the voice, the collective voice of just becomes unintelligible.
Yeah.
You can't even hear it.
Yeah.
So what does it look like in the nonprofit environment in Baltimore? Is there collaboration? Are there enough dollars to fuel and fund all of the different initiatives? Or quite frankly, the opposite of that is there some type of a consolidation that
Yeah.
would be healthy and necessary? And
Yeah.
that's some things we commented or realized along the way. What do you see there?
Yeah. I mean, I take a market approach to that conversation, right? It's not the first time this has come up in my own world. The way I see it is that typical to any sector out there, there are going to be the juggernauts, and then they're going to work your way down to the folks who are doing the small pieces, but all feeds a system, right? The nonprofit system is no different in that, right? I would think that the unique challenge of the nonprofit sector is that it is relying specifically on philanthropic capital to fuel it, not a market-based system where if you're not seeing any profit, you have some decisions to make, right? A nonprofit can literally sit in the same place and never grow for 30, 50 years and just be fine, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we have to ask ourselves, is that okay? Or do we just expect every single nonprofit to want to do this thing, right? I've come to the place of recognizing that the reason why people start nonprofits are personal. And when I engage nonprofit leaders, it is about what is your purpose and how do we make sure we right-size expectations about your purpose, right? From the outside looking in, clearly they're all competing for the same funds. But there's a small nonprofit in West Baltimore that's like, I'm just here to serve my block. And I don't need funds to serve my block. I'm relying on just local relationships and that little church right there to give me a little bit of money. And if that person accepts that that is what they are trying to do, then they fit right into the system because they have their clear purpose. Now, if you have 4 of them on the same exact block doing the exact same thing, then there's a problem. Do we have enough resources to fuel all the nonprofits in the city? Absolutely not. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, depending on the day, Baltimore is like many cities in the fact that we have a lot of challenges that people are waking up every day trying to solve for. And unfortunately, we have convinced enough people that the only way to solve problems in your community is to start a nonprofit. As opposed to like, no, there might be a market-driven approach. There may be a blended model out there, right? Or maybe you just go sit on a board of a nonprofit and keep your day job. But there's a culture about entrepreneurially, you want to do something and you see 2 boxes. Either start a nonprofit or I start a for-profit if I want to do something of my own. And most people go this direction to the nonprofit side because that's what they know, that's what they've seen. They don't have anyone to say, whoa, that thing you're simply using a nonprofit designation for, it actually makes better sense as a for-profit because of where the revenue is likely to come from. There's a lot of miseducation in that regard. We don't have a lot of local big corporate foundations similar to the Bostons in your New York cities, where the corporate foundations think of their backyard first. Most of our large corporates have either sold to much bigger companies we are no longer their backyard. So we don't have as much philanthropic capital flowing. So I don't think we have more than other cities. I just don't think we have enough of the machine to sustain it. Could there be room for consolidation as of that? Yeah, sure.
Right.
Every day. And I see it happening. People are partnering, people are dissolving, just like the market does. Speaking to collaboration, there's a lot of collaboration happening. I don't think it is as celebrated. I don't think it is as lifted. But I see it happening all the time, especially in the entrepreneur community that we support and my peers who also support entrepreneurs. We all know what our niches are and we're pushing each other a little bit and trying to collaborate on things. That does not necessarily solve the problem of there's still not enough money to support all of us, but it is happening because it is by necessity, right? Between COVID, the economic situation we are in now, go back to 2008 and the financial collapse, those things force collaboration, whether you like it or not, or you're not going to survive. And I think it's happening. We're not telling stories about it, which I think is a fault of the sector because most folks get money and they want to go do the service to the community, not spend money telling a story of how they're doing it. And that's just an allocation of resources that's not balanced in between storytelling and just going out to do the work every single day.
So 2 questions. One, is Innovation Works a for-profit or a nonprofit? And how do you shift, like, because the comment you made a second ago, and this is another thing we have a lot of conversations about in trying to help Salvation Army Junior Achievement, it's this idea of how do you get out of, and I when I'm trying to make a point, I will use the term begging, if you will, right? The philanthropic aspect. How do you get out of, or how do you evolve away from exclusively the philanthropic piece, which, as we all know, when times get tougher, is cut quickly. You know, where this mentality where a big corporation might say, well, in this moment right now, 2008, 2019 pandemic, the shock of going back to 2001, where nobody knew what was going to happen, and right in the wake of the planes hitting the buildings. How do you shift from the philanthropic piece to creating a value-added organization? And do you think that ties to the profit versus nonprofit choice, right? If I position myself, if I have access, like Junior Achievement, we'd have a lot of conversations about access to kids and growing and creating and identifying and demonstrating career paths. Well, what we have is access to a resource or an asset called young humans that are going to need to be pulled into the workforce. So what does it look like, or how would you suggest somebody stop being in the philanthropic side exclusively and create a value proposition that has you vying for dollars that are in the different bucket than philanthropy? That's a very hard word, Jay.
No, that's a very, very, I mean, I was just
after talking as long as I just talked to Jay, that's a very hard word.
It's all good. I was just reviewing a document from my team this morning about our corporate strategy, right? Because everyone is asking that same question. And for whatever it's worth, at Innovation Works, I say we support social enterprises. Whether they're nonprofits or for-profits or anything in between, don't care. The idea is we're trying to help organizations find better financial sustainability, which means not being solely grant dependent.
Right.
And that is our mission, to say if you are a for-profit, don't put all your eggs in one basket with that one client, right? Or there may be other sources of, like, other markets that you may be exploring.
Can you touch on those options?
Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah. So if you're a for-profit, you have a tech company, right? And you think, I'm just going to sell a bunch of subscriptions to a bunch of individuals. That's a BDC model. There might be something in that model, right, that could give you a B2B play or a B2G play. But if you're not thinking outside of the box and looking across your value chain and say, where am I creating value for a different audience along the way? Most folks aren't trained to see their business model in that way. We have to help them unlock that and say, hey, you have so much knowledge asset here. There may be opportunities to package as a training environment so that you can actually go figure out a way to diversify your revenue. That's on the for-profit side. And a lot of folks who start businesses on the for-profit just still need that education, right? Same thing on the nonprofit side. Most folks, I started a nonprofit, I rely on grants. And they get smacked in the face in a couple of times. People are like, okay, Jay shows up. Like, let's think about how you can diversify your revenue, or at least your sources of revenue, right? You're serving young kids in a school system, and you're trying to sell to their parents who already don't have a lot of money. Is there a foundation that sees that this is not just a grant to you, but they see a value in that product you're creating, to say, is there an opportunity here where they're sponsoring a certain number of this thing, not just feeding your general operating? Right? It's the same money. It's just looked at it a different way.
Right. Like a push versus a pull, right?
Right.
A pull would be to take it to the consumer, right? A push would be to give it to the founder, right?
Yeah. Or you say, hey, the school system does do a bunch of contracts with after-school service providers, right? Is there a value fit there where we see this as earned revenue? Because you only earn, and as a nonprofit, you can do that, right? Is there a way to expand this model outside of our market to increase our revenue opportunity? So those are the things that we're pushing on every single day. I will say it is not the easiest thing. Folks go through our 6-month accelerator program or our 5-day training program. They come out with all these brilliant ideas, and you can't really test it because you need a new set of capital to test a new idea while maintaining the thing you've built so you don't destroy it along the way. And there's no philanthropy organization that's going to say, hey, well, let's go help you invest in a new thing that may get you off of our dependency on this side.
Right.
Because they're so used to funding this thing. Most foundations aren't saying, let me give you new money to explore the new thing that may make you less dependent on me. So think about the incentive system coming from that structure.
Right.
Right. And I love my foundation friends, but it's the push and pull about how do we use philanthropic capital to also inspire innovation.
Right.
As opposed to saying, we'll just keep doing this. Good luck figuring this out on your own. Right.
Yeah.
I'll give you this one last example. Over the last number of years, I think there was a movement to convince nonprofits to pursue government resources as a source of capital. And some did it and overdid it. And this year, huge pain coming out of that.
Sure.
With things being slashed left and right, you have a lot of nonprofits who have to go reimagine who they are, who they want to be moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they were pushed in that direction by their boards.
Right. Right, because
by their funders.
because B to G in that moment seemed like this never-ending,
Yeah,
right? This never-ending
exactly.
flow of,
Exactly.
of resource availability, which is really just payment for services, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We're struggling with that as our own. We're a nonprofit. The fund is a nonprofit loan fund, and Ignite Capital and Innovation Works is a loan fund, and there's a reason for that. On the loan fund side, most of the folks we're lending to, they don't have the greatest profit margins to be paying me 12% interest.
Mhm.
So we keep our lending at 6% to help them build their business sustainably.
Right.
There's not enough I can charge them to have a model that's relying solely on fees like banks do.
Right.
So for that reason, I have to find a way to blend. So I borrow money from investors and I blend it with a small portion of grants to make it work for the sake of the mission.
Right.
But it's mostly lending capital blended with some philanthropy to make the math work for the mission that we want to do.
So let's I want to hold here because I'm curious what your Jay, like your not I don't even want to say day to day, like your major responsibilities. Is it finding those capital sources? Like what is I'm gonna say your top, 1 to 3 things that you are responsible for every day. What are those things?
And the mission fails without you executing.
yeah,
on
that's a,
these
that's a
things.
great way to put it. Yeah, it's-
My team might be scared for them to hear this part.
We don't put this on YouTube or anything. So
It's
you-
all, no, it's fine.
It's
all
we
good.
say, yeah.
No, one.
People
is,
say, "I hope I'm okay to share this." I said, "Well, you just did
you
share."
just
it."
did.
So
It's
yeah,
all
it's,
good. No,
it's too
all
late.
right.
Let
They
it
hear
rip.
this enough. It's fine. One is resourcing, right? So the unique challenge for us, I have to raise money for 2 organizations. One is a fund, investment fund, that has some grants baked into it, but it's mostly borrowing money that we pay back to investors at some point. The other side is all grant funded. Now we have some contracts in there, some earned revenue stuff in there where we actually use our knowledge assets and our training assets to deploy resources and we get paid for it. But we also have to do that in a way that is careful that we don't blow up our team because there's a lot of need. And I'm very mindful about us not watering down our value proposition to who we serve because we're chasing money, right? We've built a significant amount of trust with the entrepreneurs we serve that I wouldn't want to take on things that violates that trust with them simply because we needed to make money. So there's a lot of care there as well. So keeping the lights on both sides of the house is very important. Beyond that, I think working across the ecosystem to just help strengthen this infrastructure around how we support small businesses, social entrepreneurs in Baltimore is incredibly important because we are only one part of the system, but that system needs to work well with each other to make sure that the entrepreneurs that we are all supporting collectively, like, don't feel crazy in this ecosystem of resources that's been organized for them. Like, what is a seamless way to say, why am I doing this accelerator versus that accelerator? If I need to borrow money, where do I start versus going to 10 different sources and hearing no from everyone because I wasn't sure who the right, am I going to the CDFI? Am I going to the bank? Am I going to the foundation? Am I going to the impact investment fund? Like, how do we better organize the ecosystem? So a lot of conversations with peers around what that looks like. And then there's the internal, like we are still a relatively young organization. Ignite Capital is 5 years old. Innovation Works is 8 years old.
super young.
Yeah, super young.
So culture, maturing team members, succession planning, doing the work itself, like continue to listen to the folks we serve, to continue to adapt our systems to meet their needs and not remain stale. That's a lot of the stuff that comes beyond the outside work. So, it's like 2 startups at the same time, right?
I'm trying to wrap my head around this because I'm like for Mick and I, for instance, like you said, keeping the lights on. Like we're concerned about keeping the lights on for our company and our internal employees, however many we have. For you, it's keeping the lights on for your internal team plus 200 other companies that you support.
Yep.
Like that's a massive responsibility. I mean, that's I'm like, gosh, that's a huge burden. Like,
Yeah. I mean, we have a co-investor model, so we lend money, but we don't be the only ones long term. Because the
Right.
goal is to help mature. We are usually going to be the first check that the people we invest in see. but we're not going to be the last.
Right.
We don't want to be the last.
Right.
Yeah.
The goal is to get them entering a financial system and eventually maturing them to a bank or a
Okay, I
CDFI
understand.
or
Okay,
a venture
yeah.
fund, right?
Right.
Which means we have to bring those folks along the journey earlier. So when it's time to do the handoff, it's not some cold handoff. So my team spends a lot of time. If I'm talking to a donor or an investor, if they say, Jay, you're not the right person for the way my money is, I prefer to put my money into an early childhood education thing. That's my passion. Not you, the intermediary that's supporting them. Perfect. Rolodex. Who are the top 5 early childhood education folks in our system that I can talk about right now?
Mm-hmm. Now, are you injecting that money always on the beginning, like of a startup, or could it be at any phase? It could be an 8-year-old. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
at any phase, right?
Any phase,
I mean,
got it,
there
yeah.
are some folks who've done business for 10, 15 years, never borrowed money a day in their life.
Okay.
But it's time for them to like grow,
Yeah.
and they need that infusion at that
Got
point.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell us about your team. A of all, how big is your team, and what do their skill sets or what do their superpowers look like? Because we touched on a lot of things. I mean, I'm having
I have
massive,
a million questions.
an epiphany over here about because what I learned when we do these interviews is how little I know about certain things,
Yeah.
and this is one of those big
And
time moments for
about
me.
our community that like we love.
All this is
so
going on
much.
right underneath of our
Baltimore,
nose,
yeah.
and thank you for coming in and awakening us. So, what does your team look like? What are their superpowers? How big? Maybe give us a quickie org chart look about who does what to whom to keep all of this flowing and the lights on, as you said,
I'm going to
day
say
in and day
it
out.
without feeling a trauma in the moment of how underwater we are. I have a leadership team, and there's essentially one leader per key area of the organization, right? 6 people. HR, ops, finance, all one person, right? For both sides of the house,
Mhm.
right?
Person's busy.
Person's
Yeah.
busy. We have a systems person, so database, CRM to manage this network of, so there's 200 entrepreneurs roughly. And we also have a database or network of about 100 mentors and advisors who pro bono volunteer their time to work with the entrepreneurs.
Wow.
These are executives, retirees, they're actively running businesses. So there's a lot of matchmaking that happens, right? So there's systems. We have like an internal LinkedIn system where they all have profiles. They can talk to each other and all types of stuff. And then there's another database that we have to manage. So all that stuff. So it's one person.
Is that internal proprietary that you built out on your own, or
we licensed it from an international firm?
Okay, got it.
Now for this book.
Got it.
So there's that person. There's our fundraising person, one director of fundraising. So just me and him. That's it. And then we have a marketing and events person. Do a lot of events because we're about community building. So she does all the events and just customer experience, plus all the external stuff. One person who runs the fund in partnership with me. So our director of lending and portfolio operations is the other person. And then our director of programs, who I feel bad for because when I say we have a neighborhood strategy, we have this bit about helping them attract more revenue for the entrepreneurs. All of our programs, the accelerator, he runs all of that. He has a team of 6. Entire organization about 15.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Can you give us if you can't name names, if you can do it more as a case study, could you give us an example? Because it helps me to frame it around a specific journey. Is there a company that you engaged with early on, and can you and it can be any level of success, but give us an actual case study of a story where Mick came to me and he had an idea, it was a product, it was a service, and then we. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I try not to pick favorites, but I have to.
That's fine. That's why I said you could leave names out.
No, it's all right. I'll start with Nkenje because I just drove past her shop on my way here this morning. So Nkenje, when we met her, she had been running her business for about 15 years. Early childhood education center. She basically had the east side version of a row home. So houses that were smaller but connected to each other somehow in the Harford Road corridor, one of those off streets there. Yeah. And that building where she worked with a small team of 4 or 5, we included her mother, supported about 20-something children. Really wraparound services, though, not like you come drop your kid off at daycare, or family members were getting served while kids were getting served. And, the adult kids will come after school to hang out while the parents are still coming home from work, just to make sure they stayed up a little later. It was a bunch of things around family-centered early childhood education. She is of Baltimore, loves Baltimore. This is her life. when we met her, she knew she had bigger ambitions. So she did our first boost program, which is it was 3 days then, now it's 5 days. And she came out of that with a mentor sitting next to her the entire time for 3 days. You know what? Yeah, I always knew I wanted to do something bigger. I want like one of these in like 20 different neighborhoods across Baltimore. And I'm like, you have one right now. She was like, all right, cool. So we then had her do our accelerator a couple of months later. They say, before you go blow up the thing you've built, let's spend 6 months in a lab essentially with 2 mentors assigned to you for 6 months to really think about what it would take to get 20 of these in every single neighborhood.
Yeah.
Goes through a 6-month process, which include a lot of like geo mapping of neighborhoods based on key indicators about where the best customers would be and all that stuff. It was a lot of work planning happening. She came out of that 6 months saying, yeah, no, there's no way I'm doing 20 of these. I don't have enough energy. I like to replicate this will require so much of me.
Mm-hmm.
We said, okay, how about we just grow into one larger one? You could have 2 locations in the same neighborhood, not too far from each other, so you can at least get back and forth very easily as we were testing it out. She said, great. By the time we got done with that process, she shut down the first one and simply went to the larger one.
Mm-hmm.
So now she has a 90 capacity center.
Wow.
Where she's now using as a way to like build a larger team, serve more people, really think about documenting operations in a different way. And she's been doing that now so we invested in that business in 2019, hoping she would open that building up that year. And then COVID hit a couple of months later and she didn't open that building for a while.
Right.
We designed our capital to be really patient and flexible. Mm. So we were able to like put her loan payments on hold for a while because there was no business happening. Mm-hmm. Cost of doing things went up. She had to build a playground in the backyard to get her certification and all types of stuff. Well, she's a hustler. She got it done. She's been running that site now for a while. She's doing great. She's a thought leader in this space across the state. And what she really wants to do now is help do more of a licensing model because she recognizes there's so many people like her in Baltimore running these small centers. Mm-hmm. If she can simply help them understand what it takes to just make them a little bit better, then she doesn't have to be the one to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, sure. Yeah, give them that playbook.
She just give
right?
them a playbook.
Yeah.
Right? So right now we're in the process of trying to figure out how to like develop this playbook and a licensing model to allow more of her to be able to do the things she's been able to do. I think in the state of Maryland, for like in the state level certifications, there's a certification level 5 is the highest you can get. She's in the process of securing a level 5,
Wow.
which would make her one of the only few in the state.
And what does that come? Because we love to give shout outs, right? What does that come? What is that organization called?
Learning How.
Learning How?
Yeah.
Okay. And Ken Jay is the entrepreneur?
Yeah, Singh. Yep. Right off of Erdman and where Catholic High School is.
Oh, yeah.
The shopping center
exactly.
right across the street.
Yeah.
She's the building right in there in that shopping center.
That's right where you started your business?
It is.
That's where Brooke came from for her early
Ave.
years.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what she is. But I mean, she represents the spirit of so many entrepreneurs in this city who not only have ambition, but also care for like other people around them, right? But I think when we give them the space to really think and be thoughtful about how they want to grow, and then give them the right resources to do it, we can unlock a lot from folks.
Yeah, you take that kind of energy and passion and then mix it with some know-how, right, and some capability and look out. Is there a certain profile that you look for? So we've got a good friend, and I'm sure you know him, Jeff Cherry, Conscious Venture Lab, right?
Yep.
Which, and again, ignorantly, I don't know if your models are similar or not similar, but is there a certain profile that you look, a service versus a product? Like, I know I'll talk to Jeff at times about he'll be supporting someone bringing a product to market versus a service. Is there a certain profile that you find to be a sweet spot, or your team is more capable of incubating than another?
Yeah. We're a blend, and the reason why I said it is because our mentor network is so diverse. They're product people, they're service people, they're all in there. So as long as we have that group diverse, we can support entrepreneurs that are much more diverse. I would like if you came from the eds and meds, I can't help you. Like that's just not we don't do like biomedical products. We don't do anything like that, right? But on the product side. We invested in Wild Bay Kombucha and Yerba Mate. They're probably going to do $3-4 million in business this year. It's weird to me that up until recently they couldn't find investment anywhere after already doing $2 million in business. That was mind blowing to me.
Right.
We were able to help them organize a $500,000 raise where we seeded it and then got one of our mentors who just had means to just do the other 350 and just close the deal. We're done with it and move on. I mean, he has big ambitions. Right? So we want a balance of scalable enterprises because for us, Baltimore's growth is dependent on creating jobs that are sustainable long term. like when we see growth type oriented things, we get excited because of the opportunity that brings for us. But we also have to make sure that like the jobs they're creating are meaningful jobs that we can rely on for a while.
Right.
So I get excited about the product folks, especially because of the scalability of products beyond the market.
Sure.
And then we have like our main street folks who just need to have a healthy community, right? Our neighborhoods need to have functioning economies. So if you're gonna go open up a brick and mortar on West North Avenue and be a staple in that community, sign me up. I'm just as excited because I think we need all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, because I've been dominating the queue here.
So you were talking about loving when companies stick with you and you have this like long lasting relationship. What does that entail? Like, is it constant mentorship? Like what does that continued relationship entail?
Yeah. The way I describe it for folks is that we have entrepreneurs that are in our network. And when you're in our network, it means that we are available to you when you need us. All of our solutions don't have to be available to you at every single moment. In an ideal world, you have a mentor that you've been assigned to, and that's the person who you pick up the phone and call whenever you need them. If you need my staff or something that's different, you can call us and say, hey, do you know this person you can connect us to? My staff can do that. Oh, I need somebody to look at my spreadsheet to make sure like my model still makes sense. We connect you to a mentor for that, right? So I think it depends on what they need at the moment. So there's a lot of this bespoke responses that go on and on. But if you do a program with us, we have a space in the Inner Harbor, the same building as the Center Club. It's one floor of a building with 30 businesses. It's an incubator. And the idea is we'll bring mentors in, we'll bring the resources in here so you guys just show up to this space. And that's for 18 months and we rotate to another group, right? So that's there. There are neighborhood efforts where we have a staff member going into neighborhoods to say, hey, these particular neighbors we've partnered with, we got to walk the streets and talk to them one-on-one because they can't leave their shop. The relationship just looks different depending on where they are, what they need. But the promise is that if you remain in a network, as long as your needs evolve, we will try to like grow with you.
It might be a stupid question, but is there like a subscription model to that?
No, speaking of earned revenue,
Yeah.
we've been thinking about, we've gone down that road. We just held off on it for a while, right? It's just like, there've been enough barriers in the traditionally organized ecosystems for entrepreneur support that we need to be able to just start with building trust-based relationships with folks, and sometimes just removing those things. Like we have to demonstrate our value first before I start asking you for something.
So as simple as you have a rent bill, right? Or maybe someone helps the organization and provides this space rent free, but that's something you're picking up. I mean, talk about valuable, a space where you can come and collaborate and have a suite of services available to you. Whereas there's experts down every hall for you in that spot.
So speaking of partnerships, again, we try to keep our costs controlled as well. The space was owned by Baker Donaldson, the law firm. They gifted it to us essentially.
Perfect. Yeah, good. What a great answer. Yeah.
There you go. And then JP Morgan gave us a grant to hire the staff to manage that space specifically. And that's the partnership.
Right.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Right.
That's great.
And you are finding those partnerships.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How do we grow our mission through partnerships so that everything doesn't have to be another like general operating grant?
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Is the muscle that we're trying to exercise, right? We have another partnership on the west side of Baltimore where it's like, all right, we're going to lend to businesses in this neighborhood. We have our fund. How do we attract other resources? So we went to the state and we said, can you give us a small pool? JP Morgan give us another small pool. The more we can do with partners, the better. That's where the collaboration piece comes in. I've seen enough economic cycles to know that we shouldn't be growing a nonprofit for the sake of growing a nonprofit because eventually it all comes crashing at some point.
Right.
So grow it judiciously to do the work of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and make it self-sustainable, right? Where there's so talk about the city aspect, the government. You've mentioned the state, you've mentioned the city. It's most of what we talked about so far is what your team, other nonprofits in and around the space, the collaboration of those nonprofits. What does the cooperation and collaboration look like at the city level, the state level, right? I mean, here. City leaders talk about the needs for everything you're talking about, but historically they come up short in the delivery of that. how is it? So on the ground, as a person that's doing this day in and day out, what does it actually look like from a support research or resources priority? That's a big one, right? The priority. What does it actually look like?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this: I don't envy the governor or the mayor. I mean, like, I couldn't do their job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the demands on what all the things they need to focus on a given day is so much. The way I've kind of dissected the system is saying that the state and the city both have sub-infrastructures that they've set up to help meet the mission of the day. So instead of looking at the mayor's desk, I need to look at the things that they've already set up to do the job and start there with partnership and collaboration. At the city level, from an economic development standpoint, I have my eyes on the Baltimore Development Corporation. Otis is now leading it, and say, okay, what is their role as a quasi-economic development agency for the city? That is where most of my attention sits.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the Neighborhood Impact Investment Fund and Mark. And what are you doing over here to make sure we get capital out to build infrastructure projects in the city? When I look at those two places, I'm like, all right, I see the good things that are happening. Are they talking to each other? Oh, yeah. Right? GBC is doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
BDC is doing their thing. You know, everybody has their mandate.
Yep.
And the mandates are clear enough where we can hold them accountable.
Right.
Right.
But also then doesn't subject, because we talked about fragmentation,
Mhm,
right? When you immediately throw out 3 different organizations,
yep.
so if that mandate isn't clear, then you risk overlap,
Absolutely.
redundancy, and then you have this fragmentation where
Yeah.
nothing gets done.
Absolutely.
It
feels that way.
It does.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. Absolutely. And I will say this, and my friends at the mayor's office know that I've said this to them as well. Right. I don't know that Baltimore for a long time has had one economic development agenda that we can all rally around.
Yeah.
Now, 3-4 years ago, I was part of the group that helped, like, with BDC, organize this. Like, every 5 years, you got to file a document to the EDA to say this is the
EDA is
the
Economic Development
Agency.
Understood.
To say, as a municipality, this is our plan for growth for the next 5 years.
Mhm.
Right? It has to happen. In the past, how it happens has been very different. Sometimes it's just a team putting it together. This time around, it was like a citywide effort to, like, help inform this. And I give Colin a lot of credit for going down that road. But BDC files it with the EDA. That doesn't necessarily mean that GBC is buying to the same plan or someone else is buying to the same plan.
Right.
It's just that they had a responsibility to do this thing on behalf of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And the mayor signs off on it. GBC's responsibility primarily for a long time was to the corporate community.
Yeah.
And their needs. So it's not the same audience.
Right.
Right? So again, they're responding to, and I study the boards. Like, who are the boards of any of these things? And therefore, where is a signal coming from about their directions?
Mm-hmm.
You would need a really, really strong-handed, powerful mayor to, like, pull all that together.
Right.
I don't think Baltimore has been that, from my observation.
Right. No, we totally agree. I think the thing that's frustrating, what you just said was there, for whatever reason, there's been this inability to get this done over a long period of time, which I find frustrating. And certainly the mayors are different individually, but it's not like we see in Washington where there's this pendulum swing back between parties, right? And one just completely dismantling. They spend 2 years dismantling the last 4 years, right? That's what goes on at the federal level. Baltimore, on the other hand, has had a rather, I feel, similar trajectory of wants, desires. That's the way its constituents vote. If you look at the voting, which is frustrating to me in that somehow with what would seem like a similar, and the individuals change, I get it, but to me the messaging is similar, right? We wanted the same thing for a long time, but have yet to actually execute around it in a way that gets anything done of any consequence.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. And that's because I'm an optimist by nature. And I just maybe blame this on the organizational psychology background. I'm watching small wins along the way.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, and we don't see that. You're
Yeah,
right.
you
So
see it
thank
at
you
the
for
ground
that. Yeah,
floor,
sure.
right.
I see a generational shift in leadership across the entire city. What that means is there's a cultural shift that's coming with that. And it's going to take years to be able to even see what that's going to lead us, right? A big shift at GBC, a big shift at BDC, a big shift at what other agencies like EAGB and GBC coming together to merge, because it was like, why do you have 2 of these?
Right.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, we would. Yeah, as
Right?
as city dwellers, and we would look at that and go, wow.
Like, what are you talking about? Right?
Well, you have this side of the street and you have that side of the street.
Yeah. So
How's
I
that
mean,
even
we
work?
see a lot of these, like, fragmentations in the past, and things are slightly organizing, and then new leaders are coming in, and they now have explicit visions that we can hold them accountable to. I'm watching those small mile markers as like, this is a generation of things that we got to solve for, not like an overnight thing, right? I think, so right now, obviously in every opportunity we hear from our mayor and his team, we're going to hear about like the reduction in violence, right? That is one big KPI.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really important because as somebody who has to go raise money from outside of Baltimore and help entrepreneurs who are also raising money from outside of Baltimore, you can't imagine what the news cycle of Baltimore over the last 5 years has done to our ability to bring resource into the city.
We can, because we spent a lot of time until we had a daughter recently traveling, and whether, I mean, it would be as simple as an Uber ride. Where are you from? Right. The first day, where are you from? Baltimore. I'm sorry. Like, why are you sorry? Because The Wire was written 20 years ago.
But forget the individual sentiments.
Yeah.
It's about people pushing resources.
Yeah.
From large foundations,
Right.
and they're like, "Wait, you've had how many mayors in 5 years?"
Right. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we can't put our money in a place that we don't feel like it's going to be sustained.
That's right. Because because it's unstable.
It's
right. There's a
unstable,
stability
right.
aspect.
But that is
of it.
shifting. I'm on a conference circuit right now. The fall was the big season. I just came from Chicago and Calgary from last week. And I will tell you, people are hearing like, "Oh, Baltimore, I heard like things are turning around." It's shifting. For me, that is a signal that I'm looking for.
So, as an optimist, I mean, let's talk about those. I mean, you're talking about like a cultural or shift, but what are those wins that you're seeing that is someone like Mick and I aren't seeing,
'Cause at
or
least
the average Joe isn't?
At least there's a marketing problem, right?
Yeah.
Because that is not getting out to us, right?
Yeah.
The messaging isn't as strong externally as it could be.
So
As someone who's right here and can't hear it.
So there's a lot has happened in the philanthropic community, around the philanthropic community coming together to talk to each other over the last number of years. COVID was a big part of like forcing partnerships.
Yes.
That's
Survival
huge.
mandated it, right?
Yeah, but it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's still happening, and we have to give credit to that, right? The entrepreneur ecosystem is definitely far better organized. There are a couple of like bodies that have formed to help us all get around the same page and at least talk to each other. The base network that's housed at BDC, forced by COVID, is the leaders of all the different entrepreneur support organizations in the city that have been meeting monthly since 2020 and still happening. It's not monthly, weekly since 2020.
Oh, wow.
There's a Zoom call every single week where these folks come on a call to talk about what we are seeing, what you're seeing, what you're seeing, and how we can be innovating. Like that's happening. When I watch GBC roll out their agenda, very ambitious agenda, I'm like, at least I know what the agenda is. I can hold you accountable to. For the longest time, I didn't know what GBC did.
Right.
Otis at BDC, like I posted like 7 jobs recently, and I can go into every single job description. I'm like, oh wow, I know what your vision is based on a job description. Before then, I don't even know like what the thing is. There's a lot more clarity and visibility that I think we have to celebrate in a moment. It will take time to turn the tide on the economic development side. And I think the alignment of resources is going to be a big part of that. And I do see a lot more collaboration across all these different leaders than I've seen in the past, because it was kind of laughable in the past when folks just weren't talking to each other.
Okay. Pull your mic a little closer too, because you're saying some great stuff. I want to make sure we don't miss anything.
Got it.
Huh. Interesting. Boy, again, I'm still over here just drowning in the 10,000 questions.
I know.
Do you feel like so a lot of successful people out of Baltimore, and we know any number of the foundations. Would you say that the support and optimism from those organizations is the same or better than has been historically? There's been a lot of people, right? A lot of great foundations that have invested in Baltimore through some really, really tough times, right? I mean, they have not lost the fight. They have not turned their back on the cause. Do you sense the same type of commitment that there's been historically, better, more flow? I think we spent a lot of time talking about the promise of Baltimore, the potential of Baltimore. You know, when I'll travel, we'll go to Nashville and I'll say Nashville has nothing on Fells Point, right? I mean, no water, nothing. It's that messaging. They don't have 65 nonstop flights from Southwest every day coming into their city, yet we fail to leverage on that. So how would you say, what does that look like in that level where you have a lot of the big dollar donors that are still very committed to Baltimore, the Under Armours of for example? What's the temperature of that part of the ecosphere?
All right, I'll say this if I don't get in trouble saying this.
I know, I'm trying not to put you in a
good.
difficult spot in asking that question.
Private philanthropy, let's start there. Like foundations that have websites, Able Foundation, Gold Tech Foundation, and all these guys. I think for the longest time, like they have trustees and they have staff members. And when you have that infrastructure, it means that you tend to have a different type of relationship with the folks that you put your money into. And therefore they are partners in the work and you hear from them directly. I think those folks are even like double down, like ambitious about what is, because they've been in it for so long. I think they've had the opportunity to see so much more. I think where we have the deficit is the private, non-visible capital that picks and chooses when it plays.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have far more of that capital in Baltimore than we do from the private philanthropy. Private philanthropy, you can go look at their balance sheet and tell you how much assets they have. And right, that's just what it is. I think we have far more sitting on the sidelines that are not being deployed. And those ones, the temperature swings on any given day, right? And these are our just individuals who are like, I've been pouring money into the city through my charitable donations for 40 years and I've not seen a lot, so I'm just gonna stop.
Mm-hmm.
Or I retired and moved to Florida and my resources just went with me.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot more to bring those folks back to the table. My fear is that in this moment, and I mean, I think we have one of the only moments I've seen in my almost 30 years in Baltimore, or 25 years in Baltimore now, where it feels like everything's fully aligned. You have amazing leaders in place. You have big, ambitious plans in place. Whether perfect or imperfect, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to require so much more fuel to like make the big turns. Like everybody's going to do their part. Bramble's going to do his part, and this person's going to do their part here, and Wanada's going to do their part in West Baltimore. But for us to see everything shift in the right direction together in a consolidated way, you're going to need a lot more resources.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where that's going to come from. You know, people always talk about, oh, Detroit in the Renaissance. I'm like, okay, Detroit had one like massive source of capital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was Dan Gilbert and his family.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the city. The city went bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
You had a company and a founder and his family who like amassed a bunch of fortune and decided they were going to go all in.
Mm-hmm.
And they were already invested in the ecosystem. They have a venture fund. They have a bunch of things for entrepreneurial development. And they just decided to go big. And I mean, I think a lot of folks will credit that to having one bold visionary who said, I'm going to rally everyone else and just take the first. And that's something we have not seen in Baltimore.
Yeah. And one step further, is having interviewed someone who was part of that organization along the way, the companies that Dan Gilbert bought mandated come back to Detroit. If you were in Massachusetts, not anymore. You were your first mission was to figure out how to get that building back in the greater Detroit area.
Yeah. And right now we are investing so much money in scalable companies in Baltimore that when they sell, we have no ability to retain them. They're gone. We have the reverse problem.
Yeah.
There's no one saying we have to force you back.
Right.
We're just leaking them all the time. And they've taken all of our investments. And I mean, people exit, you create a couple of millionaires along the way. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But from a economic development standpoint, that's not necessarily a business model we should have, is to like let companies go once we've invested so much in them because we've got a couple of exits. I don't know that that's the right move either.
Yeah, and you were speaking of the kombucha company, for example, right? The beautiful thing about that, as a manufacturer, we touched in and around the manufacturing piece, and certainly I'm passionate about it. But one of the reasons is from an infrastructure sustainability perspective, they're sticky, right? You know, we also think we could pay a little more attention to what we invest in. I mean, can you snatch a cybersecurity company from Baltimore to Denver in 2 seconds?
Yes.
Literally 2 seconds. You can.
Yeah.
Not nearly as sticky as the infrastructure that it takes to make things. And if you don't believe me, look at the organizations that have yet to move New Jersey despite very high taxes and any number of things that would seem to be a challenging business climate. It's still too expensive to move that pharmaceutical plant here.
Yeah.
So I think it's incumbent upon us as we look to and this is not maybe it is a manufacturing advertisement, just the idea that if you're going to invest in that, do it in a way that it has some stickiness, right? And you look to say, well, what do you actually have to do from a root perspective to grow here? How deep is your taproot? Do you look like an oak, or do you look like a weed where you can be plucked out and moved somewhere else where that company are either finishing the A round? We watch our friends from Ready Robotics go to Columbus, Ohio, for example, right? Any number. We watch our friends from Boston Boards go to North Carolina, all out of the old foundry, right? And that's a former incubator, but easily plucked out, right? And part of that too, though, is that our local investor infrastructure didn't see the value to keep it here.
Yeah.
That's the other part.
Yeah.
And that disconnect has got to be solved for, or this will continue to happen over and over again.
I mean, our fund is not that big. But we fashion ours as a place-based impact investment fund. So the portion of our portfolio that is like a scalable tech company is like probably like 3% on purpose. I'm looking for folks who can stick around, who are making a commitment to stick around, like verbal commitment, because they're from Baltimore. They love this place so much. They're not just going to uproot themselves.
So why would that was my
Yeah.
question leading in, like, why would you stick around in Baltimore? And I have my reasons that
Yeah.
I would, but
I think a lot of folks have their reasons too, right? It's like Baltimore is part of their life. It is their story, and they want to fight for this place despite all of the headaches. To be honest with you, there's so many businesses who could just pick up and literally move to the other side of the Baltimore County borderline today.
Sure. Or Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Right. Yeah, sure. I
But
mean,
they're
take it one
staying.
click further. Sure.
And I don't question their reasons. I want to incentivize it, right? And we do that by thinking creatively about what they need at the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And I think a lot of our companies, we're just not doing that because they're not, scalable right away. We can get an exit in 5 years. I'm like, forget the exit. We want them to be here for 50 years and 100 years,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we want. And you have to reorganize your investment infrastructure to incentivize a 100-year-old company, not chasing the next exit right away. Again, no shade to my venture friends. We need a balance of all of it.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
But
No,
we just don't have enough
absolutely.
for the sticky ones.
for someone listening that wants to help, who should they contact? What should they do? They're like, this cause is meaningful, and I want to get involved.
Call me. I mean, I'll go crazy with my phone number out there. But no, no. I mean, so here's the thing. Again, Baltimore is a home away from home for me at this point. I love this place, and I really, really do mean, like, our organization's mission is my own mission. It is to help grow the local economy, because I want my kids, when they grow up in Baltimore, to say Baltimore is a place I choose to stay. Not because, I mean, the beautiful thing about what me and my wife talk about is we give our children options. That is a legacy, right? My parents may not have had all the options. They took the option that they had and took it. They gifted us options. We're going to gift our children options. If my child one day says, I want to move somewhere else, I'm not going to stop him, but I want him to consider staying. And the reasons that he will stay are the things we're fighting for today.
Right.
And I think there are many people around Baltimore who understand just that same fight. We are a cog in the wheel, and I'm happy to take like calls or emails from anyone who wants to like be alongside our mission. Or if it's like, Jay, I believe in the broader vision, but not necessarily your mission, let's talk too. I'll send you to my friends. You can go talk to them.
Right.
But I do think we need more hands on deck and people to actually like believe in the moment, because I have enough conversation with people who are like, I'm just waiting and seeing. I'm like, you can. Time is only passing us by though.
Yeah. And I think the great part about what you build structurally is there's lots of ways you contribute, right? Let's just say you're super busy and you want to write a check, right? You want to
that.
back the fund, or you want to be a mentor, right? Much more, roll up your sleeves, the dirtier aspect of it, shoulder to shoulder with an entrepreneur, helping them through the process. And I think probably every click in between, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
As invested as you want to be financially or from a time capital perspective.
Absolutely. And even in the manufacturing space, there's so many different types of people manufacturing in Baltimore, different types of products at the moment. If you are in apothecary space, I don't know how many mentors that have been in that space that we have in Baltimore right now that can say, I've been in this line of business, particularly for your product. Let me help you figure out how to grow. For our food and beverage folks, we have a handful of folks we've been able to identify, but there are just so many unique types of ways that people can, like, even from a sector breakdown.
Sure.
Because the talent in Baltimore is that diverse and that impressive. And we need people to really step up to say, hey, I know your business well because I've done it.
Yeah, for sure.
This was super insightful, but I think the better word is inspiring. Like, we love this city, and I think a lot of people do. It's such, like, there's so much texture here. So thank you for sharing all this. And as we wrap, we always end with, is there anything that you'd like to share, final words, or just anything valuable with everybody listening? Anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, believe.
Not to put you on the spot
No,
or
I mean,
anything.
believe, right?
Yeah.
Believe and if you're sitting on the sidelines, believe and take a step. Whether it's writing a check, getting your hands dirty, or just simply like pay more attention to the good things, right? And rewriting that narrative.
Yeah.
And looking for the small wins along the way to kind of help fill your heart back up. Like, believe, and jump in. We just need more people to do that, and I'll take your call anytime.
Believe and jump in. I love that. Great way to end it. I don't think we could end it on a better note.
Well, Jay, thank you. I mean, it's such a commitment to get here and spend time with us and share your valuable knowledge, and we will be backing and talking about it and push the message however we can.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
All righty, thank you.
All right.
Welcome to Ace Rodney Talks for the Silver Stars. Tonight's guest.